Now, I want to talk about MacPherson, 1996, right? This is the poor bouncing ball of politics in Singapore. 1968, MacPherson is created for the first time for the 1968 general election. When they created GRCs in 1988, it was left alone. The following election, 1991, they brought MacPherson into Marine Parade GRC. In 1997, right, or rather 96 was the report, 97 was the election, PM instructed the EBRC to carve out MacPherson constituency, and the reason was so that there could be a one-to-one fight between Matthias Yao from the PAP and Chee Soon Juan, right? Basically, what had happened was that Chee Soon Juan had criticized PAP for, the cost of HDB flats, and he basically said, look, if I had the power, I could, build them more efficiently and so on. And then there was this challenge, and one of the things I think Chi said was he told Matthias, stop hiding behind your GRC. You come out and you take me on one-on-one. And for that, they carved out MacPherson, right? So this is kind of makes nonsense of this delineation, right? Anyway, Matthias Yao kept his seat. 2011, they brought it back into Marine Parade GRC. And then in 2015, they carved it out as an SMC again, right? What was the reason? Well, it's not on official record, but I remember talking to Tan Chuan Jin at one point after this 2011 election, and he kind of let on that, oh, well, they thought Tin Pei Ling didn't do very well, and maybe they should just carve out MacPherson as her own SMC. And lo and behold, they did it exactly as that. Anyway, 10 years later, now they're going to take MacPherson back into Marine Parade, Braddell Heights. New constituency, newer GRC. Okay, what are the problems? Number one is disappearing constituencies, right? And this is something everyone kind of talks about, and I wanted to see how real the patterns are, right? Now, mind you, if you followed me with all the different terms of reference for the Electoral Boundaries Commission, you will find that none of them said get rid of all the SMCs that the PAP did badly in, or all the GRCs that we didn't do well in. Never said anything like that. But the pattern seems to be that seems to be a consideration, maybe an invisible consideration. It may be something that they subconsciously or reflectively do, right? So 1991, PAP lost 4 SMCs, Bukit Gombak, Hougang, Nee Potong Pasir. They didn't do well in Eunos GRC, Braddell Heights, Bukit Batok, Changi, Nee South. The next in time for the next election, what did they do? They recommended reducing number of SMCs, originally 21 down to 9, turn everybody else into a GRC. Eunos GRC, which is already a GRC, mind you, they split it up, right? And they had it absorbed by other constituencies. Braddell Heights, which they did badly in, got absorbed in Marine Parade. Bukit Batok, which they didn't do very well in, got absorbed in Bukit Timah GRC. Nee Soon South became absorbed in Ang Mo Kio GRC. Okay. If it's one-off, okay, maybe coincidence. Next round, decentralized voting was introduced. I'll say a little bit about decentralized voting. This is an important point which I think people have forgotten, actually, right? The political parties taking part in the elections, and I'm very specific about political parties, not just the government, by the way, right? Every political party that takes part in elections will know at the end of the election how each precinct votes for or against you. This was because in 1992, Prime Minister Goh Chok Tong said, we are going to link voting with upgrading. So if you vote for us, we will upgrade your HDB flats. And of course, everyone said, well, look here, how do you know whether I vote for you? My vote is supposed to be secret. I said, no, we don't check on the votes. We don't read your votes. Of course we don't, right? But we know that if we split up the counting centers, instead of having all these boxes brought, they used to bring them all in buses to centralized counting centers. Now, no more, right? From 1997 onwards, they were all decentralized. decentralized. In 1997, there were 46 counting centers, and each one of them were counting according to the precinct. So you know pretty much to the block how well you did, right? What's the percentage and so on. Now, what is the significance of this? Well, it is significant because anyone who has a total command of this information can then say, all right, let's try and, fix those constituencies that are not so good for us, right? Maybe move them out and so on, right? So this is a very, very important point. The one person who has, or the one party that has got all the information is the party that contested every single seat, which is, of course, the PAP. So anyway, it's 1997 election, the lowest performing GRC was Chengshan. Chengshan got split up, then got absorbed by Ang Mo Kio GRC, Aljunied GRC. In 2011, the PAP lost the Aljunied GRC and Hougang SMC. They didn't touch those, right? Continue to leave them alone. Its worst performing but winning constituencies were Joo Chiat SMC. And then 2 years later, there was a by-election because of the resignation of Michael Palmer, the speaker. And so the Workers' Party won Punggol East SMC. But by 2015 election, Joo Chiat SMC was already absorbed into Marine Parade. All right. 2015, PAP loses Aljunied, Hougang. The worst performing ones for the PAP were Fengshan, Punggol East, East Coast GRC. Well, what was the recommendation? Punggol East SMC would combine with Sengkang West SMC, and Sengkang Central form a new GRC called Sengkang GRC. Fengshan, which they didn't do very well in, got absorbed into Marine Parade. So you can see how some of those have disappeared, right? East Coast was kind of left alone. 2020 election, they lost 10 seats with Aljunied GRC, Sengkang GRC, Hougang SMC, right? The worst performing ones were Bukit Batok, Bukit Panjang, Marymount, Marine Parade, West Coast. And this is a mess. This is the latest one, is massive, massive changes all over the place. But you can see that the worst performing constituencies have either been absorbed somehow into a bigger GRC, right? Or totally just sort of split up, right? And then the creation out of nowhere of a number of new SMCs. So this is the one that I wanted to tell you about. This is where vote will decide your upgrading policy. In fact, this was announced in 1992, but came into effect with the 1997 election, right? Where for the first time, we were all rather stunned to find out that the state will know how we voted by precinct. And of course, once you know how well a precinct does, you can, if you choose to, gerrymander such that it can benefit you, right? But with these kinds of benefit, it always can cut both ways. I think the important point that we should never forget is that when we try and design an institution, it's got to work for everyone. Yes, you can go around playing hard and fast and loose with rules because you happen to be in charge. But one day you may no longer be in charge. Then you wish the rules were a bit different, right?